Hello everybody and welcome to the video you had all asked for. Well, some of you. As you know, 2 weeks ago I made a video titled "These are the worst countries in the world to make friends in." If you haven't watched that video, I'm gonna link to it here so you can go watch it after this one. But today's video is gonna be a whole lot more positive. Or will it be? I will go through the top 10 countries to make friends and share my own very personal, very honest opinion on each one of them. And well, if I have no personal opinion, I will go through Reddit to share what people had to say. Now, a quick disclaimer, I will be using the poll from 2018 because I just found it easier to follow. It's a lot better organized. But I will also bring in the poll from 2023 titled "The Ease of Settling In." I will list the top 3 countries from that list. The first country on this list is Portugal. Why did Portugal make it on this list? Well, it's really no surprise. If you have any access to the internet, you will be in on the hype. With digital nomads, entrepreneurs, and influencers flocking to Lisbon, thinking they're the ones to discover pastel de nata in the most touristy of all places in Bahrain. Yes, Portugal post-COVID is a thing. I lived in Portugal for almost 2 years and I loved it. I still miss it. I still have days where I think, should I just go back? Now, while I personally don't find Portuguese incredibly friendly, there are no Brazilians, I would say that Lisbon can quickly start to feel like home. Portuguese are, or at least were, highly accommodating to foreigners. They always made sure to speak English to me. And there's this kind of nice, melancholy, passive type feeling about them, a kind of gentleness that I really appreciated. I believe that Portugal, especially Lisbon, might have changed post-pandemic with the influx of pastel de nata eating tourists frequenting rooftop bars and documenting it all online. I think that authenticity that has made me fall in love with Lisbon is now no longer there. Having said that, I do believe that Portugal still deserves its place on the list. And yes, I know Portugal is not just Lisbon, for the record. The next country on this list is gonna get a lot of comments for sure, but please keep in mind this is not a political channel, so let's keep the politics aside. Now, of course, having said this, you all know that this country is Israel. Israelis are an interesting bunch. I know I often talk about the Germans and the Dutch being very direct, but they are nothing when I compare it to the directness that I've experienced in Israel, with random people giving me advice on life or friends of friends trying to set me up with random Russian Jewish men. I'm sorry, Igor, I'm still not interested. Apparently he did get married, so I did miss that train. But people can also be direct to the point of rudeness.
Good, right?
It's interesting. Yeah.
But it's not a book. What is interesting? It's good or not?
I remember taking a bus in Israel and I was on the phone with my dad when a man in front of me turned around and said really rudely to me, "Can you please be quiet?" So compare it to Portugal, where people are mostly gentle in their interaction, minus the one incident I had in Porto where a lady yelled at me for wanting to use the toilet in the place that I was eating. And 2 seconds later, someone invited me to have a free drink with them and have a dance. Anyways, in Israel, I was walking around prepared for a brash interaction. The way I see it, Israel has no filter. It's kind of like an extended family dinner where your aunt keeps on telling you you've gained weight and your grandma keeps on prying into why, you're still not pregnant. And it's that kind of interaction that leaves you super annoyed. But it's that big family mentality that Israel has, blurring the line between people, which makes sense because it is like one big family. You have people from countries like Morocco, Russia, Argentina, all tied together by blood. In Israel, closeness is associated with saying how it is, in this way blurring the line between people. Next up on the list, we have a country in Asia, and that's Taiwan. Now, I don't know much about Taiwan, so I had to do a little digging for this one. Let's read a couple of Reddit posts to see what people have to say. As a foreign visitor, I found Taiwan has a strong hospitality culture more than anywhere else I visited. People have been generous, both spending their time to help out or show me around, but also spent money and refused to let me pay them back. Not everyone experiences this supposed friendliness. Personally, I have not found people in Taiwan to be notably friendly in any way. This notion that Taiwan has the nicest people is basically a tourist meme at this point. From reading this post, it seems like the Taiwanese friendliness is more centered around etiquette and hospitality and the more non-confrontational side of Taiwanese people. But does this make them easy to become friends with? Let me know what your thoughts are on this. And by the way, neither Taiwan nor Israel make it on the poll in 2023. Next country on the list is, of course, in Latin America. I'm sure that when I announced this list to you, you said there must be at least 3 Latin American countries on this list. And you're right, and actually there are more. The first first one is Colombia. And by the way, it's not Colombia. Everybody keeps on writing Colombia and it's always irritating. So if you retain anything from this video, it has to be that. And of course, there's no surprise to anybody that Colombia made this list. We all know that Latinos, specifically Colombians, Venezuelans, Mexicans, they are some of the warmest, most hospitable cultures. They will go out of their way to make you feel at home. And unlike some of the coconut cultures, Colombia is as peach as it gets. At this point, a ton of Colombians will write in the comment section saying, woo, I knew we would be on this list. But there is one comment under my last video that really stood out to me and I wanted to address it. This might come as a surprise, but I'm from Medellin, Colombia, and I always find it extremely hard to make genuine friendships here. Most people would say that Colombians are super friendly, but all that friendliness feels very surface level. The culture is very shallow and people are extremely flaky. You can tell someone, hey, do you want to hang out and have some drinks on Saturday? The other person would say yes. And then on Saturday, that person will blow you off. I've lived abroad, have great friends from different countries, but I never seem to connect with people from my city. Now, I really wanted to talk about this comment because this is one that I get quite a lot about the Latin American cultures, about Brazil, for example, but it's also one that I get overwhelmingly about Colombia, which is why I wanted to give some reasons about why people here might be more flaky. The first reason is that people live more in the moment. Maybe the moment that they said they wanted to hang out, they really feel like doing so, but a little bit later they change their minds or are presented with a better alternative. Another reason is that rigid planning is not a part of the culture, which means that people are a lot more spontaneous and it's just easier to connect with people. It's easier to make plans, which is awesome, right? Nobody likes rigid planning where you have to plan weeks in ahead like you might in a country like Switzerland or Sweden. However, with that comes the not so positive side, and that is that people honor their commitments less. If we go back to the farming days, we would see that colder countries simply had to plan out their life well in advance. If you don't, you would just simply die in the winter. In her book, The Culture Map, Erin Meyer writes that one thing to remember is that the relationship-oriented cultures, hot climate cultures, will tend to be more flexible when it comes to time, and task-oriented cultures, cold climate cultures, prefer structure and a linear time schedule. There's also the non-confrontational aspect of the Latinos. It's often easier to say, hey, we should totally do this again sometime, than just to say, okay, bye. Having that awkward silence hang in the air. Actually, I find myself in those situations quite a lot. It's often easier for me to make an empty promise, so to speak, than to just say, okay, bye, and walk away. So I'll often say, yeah, we should do this again sometime. And the person will say, yeah, totally. And you both know that it's not gonna happen. I always say to myself, just end the conversation, walk away, just end the conversation, walk away. But it's really hard to do that in practice, especially if you live in North America where everybody seems to be doing that.
Take care. You too. This was great. I'll give you a call. We should do it again sometime.
Another issue with peach cultures, a complaint that often the coconut cultures make about peach cultures, or specifically Europeans make about Americans, is that while it's easy to be friendly, it's not so easy to make friends. And I got that comment quite a lot in my last video where you guys have said, okay, well, yeah, sure, it may be really hard to make friends in these countries, but actually you make good, solid friends in these countries versus just being friendly with everyone. And I think that's a great point. Think about it like this. If we sit on a train, I take a real interest in you and I start telling you a little bit about my life. I show you some photos of my children, of my husband, of my pet, and maybe you do the same and you think, whoa, it looks like we're getting somewhere. In my mind though, I talk to people all the time. And for me, I'm thinking about it more as a nice moment with a stranger where we get to share something to each other and move on. You don't need to make a friend out of every interaction. Compared to the cultures where people don't talk to strangers, and if they do, it really means something to get to that next level. By the way, if you're moving abroad or considering moving abroad and struggle to make friends, form those connections, or find the dating scene confusing as hell, you basically spend your days in fetal position thinking, how did I get here and how do I navigate this culture? I have a new set of guides out, starting with Sweden and Finland, but I'm going to go and cover the rest of Europe eventually, and then eventually the rest of the world. By the way, these guys are super helpful if you want to know specific places to go to meet people, specific websites, specific physical locations. I've had locals help me put these together. So this is not just my opinion. This is from people who live in these specific countries. If you want to go check them, I'm going to link to them below. Next country on the list is Uganda. Again, I've never been to Uganda. I don't know much about Uganda. So I did a little bit of research to see if it would come up. And yeah, I got everything from Nigeria to Malawi. It didn't seem like Uganda in any way, shape, or form stood out amongst these countries. And actually, when we look at the poll in 2023, Kenya is the one that comes up 4 times. So I wanted to hear your opinion. Which do you think is the friendlier country of the two? And which do you think is the safer country of the two? Because that's quite important. Next up, we got 2 more Latin American countries on the list. We got Ecuador, where people feel more of a sense of belonging, and Costa Rica, where people feel happiest. Costa Rica, I don't know why I said it like that. Costa Rica, as we know it, is expat paradise. A very expensive hippie paradise. So I'm not sure if it comes down to the ease of making local friends, but it does come down to the comfort level due to low crimes, beautiful nature, and fresh fruit smoothies. Again, neither Costa Rica nor Ecuador appears on the poll in 2023. The next one on the list is another and last European country. It is Serbia. Now, as some of you know, I filmed a video on Belgrade a few years ago, and while I love the coastal atmosphere of countries like Croatia or Montenegro, Serbia surprised me in a very good way, and that was because of the people. If I could describe Serbia, it would be with a mix of directness. People say it how it is. They're very personable, so you can get close to them very quickly. No niceties necessary. And what's interesting here is how much people enjoy the simple moments, from family and friend gatherings to eating good food to dancing and late night parties. Okay, you do have a culture of showing off, which is a thing in the Balkans.
Interview?
Like an interview, yes.
Oh, I don't have a time. Eva, if you want.
And you might not get the same treatment that I did. Keep in mind that Balkans tend to be quite conservative, and that might influence your experience. Next up on the list is Bahrain, another country I know nothing about. Bahrain rose from 6th to 2nd place in just 1 year. 92% of expats think locals are friendly, and 3 in expats find Bahrainis extremely friendly, which is double the global average. This may also be due to a lack of language barrier, aka people speak English pretty well. Now, before I name the first country on the list, one that comes up first in the poll in 2018 and in 2023, I will share the 2 countries that replace Serbia and Bahrain in the poll in 2023. Third on the list is the Philippines. Filipinos are just very, very friendly people. They're some of the most smiley and helpful people that I've ever met. They're just super, super sweet. And it's no surprise that we have so many Filipinos that are nurses and caretakers in the world. Nearly 9 in 10 expats find Filipinos friendly. 3 in 5 say it's very good. The Philippines have always performed well when it comes to the topic of finding friends. Over 7 in 10 expats in the Philippines say that it's easy to make local friends there. And of course, at number 2, we have the country that you have all been waiting for, and that's Brazil. Is anyone surprised? I'm definitely not. Close to 9 in 10 expats in Brazil rate Brazil positively, and 73% say finding friends is easy. Brazil ranks in the top 10 when it comes to finding friends, and 71% of people are very happy with their social life. Close to 9 in 10 expats feel welcome here, and more than the average amount of people would like to stay in Brazil forever. Having met Brazilians around the world, these statistics don't surprise me in the least. Brazilians are people who make you feel welcomed immediately. If I see a Brazilian anywhere in the world, I know for a fact they're going to be the ones to help me. They're going to make me feel like we know each other for years, and it's just going to be very easy interaction. As an example, I was in Recife and I was leaving the airport to fly to Rio, and my luggage was overweight. The guy who helped me check in was the one that figured out that my luggage was overweight, so he got down on his knees and he helped me zip it up, and he was just overly sweet, went way beyond his duties. But then again, in Rio, I got exploited time and time again, which I don't think is a people problem. It's more the overwhelming amount of tourism. People try to make money off of you. You're just like a walking dollar sign to them, and the service is not so positive, it's not so friendly, which doesn't really come as a surprise to me. Now onto the first country on this list, the country that topped each of these polls, which is pretty crazy, and it's a country in Latin America, more specifically in North America. And by now you probably would have guessed it's Canada. No, I'm joking. It's Mexico. For the 5th year in a row, it ranks first on the ease of settling in. Over 4 in 5 expats feel at home here, around 9 in 10 also feel welcome, and 91% rate the general friendliness of the local residents positively, which is a lot. What's interesting is that expats in Mexico are less likely to be friends with other expats. 31% say their friends are mostly locals, which is almost double the global average. Now, while I personally agree, I don't think it's as rosy of a picture as they're painting. I've spent a long time in Mexico, and I found it easy to connect with people. I found it easy to form contacts. Mexicans are people that are very easy to get to know. Now, something that I've noticed, however, is just how much negativity the videos that I made about foreigners living in Mexico got. And it really made me wonder, because I made exactly the same content, much more negative content about foreigners complaining about their life in countries like Germany or Sweden. And those videos didn't receive anywhere the same amount of hate and negativity. My Mexican friends explained it to me like this: with the influx of tourism and expats coming to Mexico, the prices have really risen, making it really hard for locals to live. And so this has given rise to nationalism. So foreigners may not feel so welcome in the country anymore. And I've personally felt attacked when I had my hair cut. I don't know if you guys know this story, but if you would like me to make a video around best to worst customer service that I've personally experienced, please let me know. It's also really important to note that while Mexico is not the most dangerous country, it's also one of the most dangerous countries. And I think this is important to note when you're going somewhere and wanting to live there and wanting to make friends. Just how safe do you feel in the country? While I do agree with the statistics saying that Mexicans are just wonderful, genuine people, I don't fully agree with the fact that Mexico is this wonderful country where you're gonna feel totally at home, because you still have to watch your back. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I tried to make it as honest as I could. And if you want to see longer conversations around themes like culture, moving countries, making connections, dating, of course, I have a podcast called The Dating Beyond Borders podcast. I have it right here. You can go check it out. And I'll see you guys next week with a new video. And as usual, keep breaking down your barriers.